Hi, in this video, I'll be sharing 7 must-have Visual Studio Code extensions that I use on a daily basis for web development in 2024. So let's jump in and take a look. The first extension on our list is Prettier, which is basically a code formatter, as you might have already guessed from its name. We can set Prettier up in a way that every time we save the code, it will automatically format it and take care of all the extra spaces, the indentation, and all of that for us. Let me show you how this works. All right, so let us take a quick look at how our code works without Prettier, and then we'll install it and see the difference. So I just put the boilerplate in, and then let us say that we just start writing some code. So I just write, this is a heading, and let me just write another paragraph. Let's say this is a paragraph. You can see none of this is formatted at any point of time. The paragraph is here left aligned, and it is actually supposed to be on the same level as the H1. So we can manually move things around, but naturally this is not the best way to do it. So now let's go ahead and install Prettier so that we can see the difference before and after. In the extensions panel, I'm just typing in Prettier. It is typically the first thing that shows up in the list. This is the extension Prettier code formatter. Let us install this. It should take a minute or so and install it quickly. Then we have to make 2 setting changes here for this to really work. The first change is click on the settings icon, go to extension settings, right? And over here, make sure you select all the relevant options. So this option is typically disabled. So enable this, Prettier enable. The next setting that we have to change is called format on save. So I'll just search for it in the settings panel here. And this is the option format on save. So I'm going to check this. This should enable the formatter for us. If it still does not work, then what you can do is you can right click here and click on the option which says format document. Once you click on this, it will ask you to choose the default formatter. So configure this, choose Prettier from the list, and you can see it will automatically instantly format the document for us. Now, no matter where we write the next line of code, let's say this is another para, and I save it. As soon as I save it, you can see it will format the document for us. So this is how you can set up Prettier in VS Code. Next up on our list is better comments. I face this issue a lot when I develop on a daily basis, that I write a comment down, but I don't really remember or take that action later on. That is where better comments comes in. This lets us highlight comments in a way that they become visually more appealing, and we can easily remember what we had written and what action needs to be taken the next time we come back to the code. Let's take a look at how this works. Okay, so before we go ahead and install better comments, let's just leave a few comments for ourselves here so that we can see the difference before and after. Let us say that we are facing an error in this line and we have to fix it. So we can just leave a comment saying fix this. Then there could be another thing, let's say where we have a logic problem. So we can leave a note for ourselves saying work on this logic. And finally, we are just writing something to highlight. For example, say header begins here. These are 3 different comments that we have written, but there is no way to visually distinguish them to understand which of them talks about an error, which of them is just a note and stuff like that. This is where better comments comes in. So again, I'm heading to the extensions panel and I'll install better comments. Now there are a couple of copies of this also available. If you see, we have to look at the check mark. You can see the blue tick here. This is the verified one. So I'm going to go ahead and install it. We don't really need to change any settings in this case, but you should definitely check out the documentation here. So if you see, star is a normal comment, then this exclamation makes it red. Then we have a question mark, we have a to do. So these are some things that we can use. Let's try this out now. So let me just hide this extension panel, go back to our index.html, and let's just see. So this fix needs to be a bug issue, so an alert. And you can see as soon as I put that exclamation, it immediately turns red. This is then a to do for me, so I can change this to a to do, and you can see it turns orange. Similarly, this can be either a question mark, a normal comment, or a star, which is again a normal comment for us. So we can decide which color indicates what for us, but this makes the comments really useful by visually highlighting them for different purposes. This is better comments. The next extension on our list is live server. Are you tired of manually reloading the browser to see the output every time you make some changes in the code file? Well, worry no more. Live server takes care of that for us. It automatically reloads the browser every time we make changes to any code file. Let me show you how to set this up. For the live server extension to work properly in VS Code, we have to open up our project as a folder and not as an individual file. So for this, what we can do is we can go to File and then click on Open Folder. This pulls up the file explorer for us. We can create a new folder here. I'll just call it demo for now and create it. And then I'm going to go ahead and open it up. This is the only way in which live server works properly in VS Code. Then we can create a file. So I'll call it index.html. I already have the code copied, so I'm just going to paste it. And then we can go ahead and install it. So let's head over to our extensions panel, look for live server. Again, it will typically be the first extension in the list, and then click on the install button. We don't really have to make any changes to the settings. But now, once the extension is installed, what we can do is we can right click on our HTML file and we'll see a shortcut open with live server. So you can see the browser opens up and the content that we have also shows up. So we have one heading and two paragraphs. Now, the best part about this extension is that whatever change we make here will immediately be reflected in the browser without us having to reload. So let's just say we have a button which says subscribe, for example. So as soon as I create the button and go back, you will see the button is already available, which means the browser has already been refreshed or reloaded. This is live server. Next up, we have an extension called CSS Peek. This is a very handy extension which shows us all the CSS styles that are applied to any HTML element within the HTML or JavaScript file without having to switch back and forth between CSS files. Here's a quick example of how this works. Now, to experiment with the CSS Peek extension, let us quickly create a CSS file first. So I'll call this styles.css. Let's quickly link it as well. So for that, we have the link tag and we have to specify the file path. That is done. Now let's give our heading a bunch of styles. So let's go to the file, type in h1, and we can change the color, for example, to something like royal blue. For instance, this could be the color. Then let's style our button as well. So instead of styling the entire button element, let's actually give it a class. So we'll call it special and let's style that. So then to style a class, we have the dot followed by the class name, which is the class selector. And then let's change the padding over here. So let's say we have two padding values, 10 pixels and 20 pixels. Right? Perfect. If we want to check the output, we can see it in the browser. This is what it looks like. But we are not concerned with the output right now. We're actually concerned with the extension. So let's go ahead and look for it. This is called CSS Peek. So let's go ahead and click on the install button. This should install the extension for us. And as soon as the extension is installed, we can immediately go back to our HTML file and start working with this. How this works is that there are a bunch of different shortcuts available for different things. You can check out the documentation for more details. But let me show you a quick shortcut which is for peeking at all the styles. So we have to take the cursor to the element that we want to peek at. For example, if it is H1, then on a Mac, the shortcut is Option and F12. So as soon as I click that shortcut, you can see it instantly pulls up the CSS definition for the styles for that element. If I have to show you another quick example, let us take a look at the special class. So again, I'll click on Option and F12 and this pulls up all the styles for the special class. Now, the best part here is that if the styles are available in multiple files, let's call this second.css. Let me style h1 here as well. And I'll change the font size to, let's say, 32 pixels, for instance. So even if the styles are coming from multiple files, all of them will be shown over here. You can see on the right hand side, we see both the files. So it shows us that one style is coming from styles.css and this another style coming from second.css. So this is how CSS Peek works. The next extension does not really do much in terms of functionality, but this does add a lot of visual appeal to the project. This is called Material Icon Theme, and this is by far my most favorite extension for icons in VS Code. Let me show you how the icons look when this extension is applied. Alright, I already have Material Icon Theme installed, as you can see. So all the icons that you see in my VS Code are already coming from this extension. But again, this is what that looks like. When you scroll down, you can also see a preview of all the icons and file formats that are supported by this extension. And you can see this supports pretty much everything. Now, If we create a folder here, you can see the folder icon will also change based on the name of the folder. So if I choose assets, for example, you can see this changes. If I create another folder called tests, you can see this gets a lab icon kind of a thing, right? And it changes the color to green as well. Similarly, when we create other files, for example, let's create a JavaScript file. Let's call it script.js. You can see this turns to a yellow JavaScript symbol, right? So depending on the system or the language that we're working with, this will change. If we create a folder called media or images, this will again change. If we create another folder called videos, you can see there are different icons available for all sorts of files and folders. So this is the material icon theme. In case it does not get enabled by default, what you can do is after you install it, click on this button which says set file icon theme. This will show you a list of all the icon packs that you have installed and you can choose material icon theme from there. Next up, we have a beta extension by Microsoft known as Live Preview. So this extension is basically still in beta, which means it is still in development. But what this does is really interesting. It opens a Google Chrome instance within VS Code itself so that we can see the output without even having to leave VS Code. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly install Live Preview from the extensions. So I'll just look for it. It's called Live Preview. This is an official extension by Microsoft. As you can see, it is also in the preview or the beta stage right now. There's also a warning which says this is still under development, but it should work fine for most cases. So again, we can go ahead and install this. Now, as soon as the installation is done, this is available in the right click menu for our HTML file. So we can go back to a file explorer, right click on the HTML file, and we see an option called show preview. We can click on this and this will pull up a Google Chrome instance within VS Code, as you can see. So this is the extension. And again, if you make any changes to the file, they are reflected live over here. Let's say this is new heading. You can see even if I type a single letter, let's say I type brand, you can see every letter will reflect instantly. So this is how Live Preview works. Extension number 7 on our list is TODO Highlight. This again is a very handy extension for leaving notes to ourselves. There are certain keywords that this extension highlights for us so that we know what action needs to be taken the next time we come back to our code. Here's a quick example. Okay, so to try this out, let's quickly install the extension. We are searching for TODO Highlight. There are a couple of different options for this as well, but the one that we are looking for usually shows up at the top and it has the most number of downloads. So let's click on the install button here. Once the installation is done, we don't really have to change any settings. If you do want to add custom keywords, you can do that with the help of the instructions given here. You can scroll down and here you will find some instructions. You can follow this syntax to add some custom keywords or change existing styles if you want to. But what we can do is to experiment with the built-in keywords. So there are two keywords that I'll show you quickly. The first keyword is called to do followed by a colon. As soon as we do this, you can see it gets highlighted in this yellow color. We typically use it within a comment and you can see now the styling from both our extensions are getting applied. So again, this is up to us as to how we want this to be, right? Then we have another keyword called fix me, which is also very popular. So we can say fix me and a colon and this becomes a pink color visual highlight, as you can see. We can also toggle these highlights on and off by going to the command palette. So again, if I open the command palette, the shortcut is Command Shift P or Control Shift P. There is a setting which says toggle highlight. You can check or uncheck this, you can see, and it can toggle the colors on and off. So this is how we can work with the TODO Highlight extension. And finally, a bonus extension for you if you have watched the video so far. This extension is called Thunder Client. And what this lets us do is to run RESTful API calls within VS Code. So again, let me show you how this works. Alright, so as you can see here, I have Thunder Client already installed on my system. You can also go ahead and install it from the extensions panel. So again, in the extensions menu, you look for Thunder Client. It is typically the first thing that shows up. It has this lightning symbol. This is the one that we are looking for. As soon as we install this, it becomes available as an option in the left menu, typically just under the extensions option itself. So if you notice, in my case also, it is available right under the extensions. I can click on that and this is the interface. It opens it up in the left menu or a sidebar and then we can click on new request. This opens up a full page request panel, and over here we can then go ahead and type the API that we want to connect to. In this case, I just want to connect to a random user API which will return some data back to us. We can choose between the HTTP method from this list, and you can see this supports all methods. So we have get, post, put, delete, patch, everything that we need. If we want to provide some data in the request, we can do that either in terms of query parameters or in the body as a JSON, XML, text, or in any other format. So this works with every possible scenario when it comes to API calls. In this case, I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm just going to connect to the API by clicking on the send button. As soon as we do this, you can see it connects to the API, and then it gives us a success message, the size of the response along with the time it took, and then we can see the entire JSON response on the right hand side. We also get access to all the headers coming from the response. You can see that over here. We also have cookies, results, and everything else that the API can potentially return. So this is Thunder Client, and it is a very handy tool when it comes to building backend applications so that you don't have to go back to your front end over and over again. All right, that wraps up my list of top 7 must-have VS Code extensions for web development in 2024. If you found these extensions useful, do like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. If you use an extension that I missed out, let me know about it in the comments below. Thank you so much for stopping by. See you in the next one.